Wel, bore da, a chroeso I gynhadledd Cymru Byd Eang. Cynhadledd gynta rithiol Cymru Byd Eang. Good morning and welcome to everyone to the first Global Wales Conference, certainly the first virtual Global Wales Conference, which will deal this morning and throughout the conference with collaborative approaches to delivering international strategies. We're really excited about today. There's so much to focus on in terms of Wales's contribution and also its outlook towards the world. We'll be considering the direction of international education, and we will be looking forward to benefiting from your insights as experienced professionals in the field. Can I just open with a few housekeeping rules, which no doubt you will be familiar with. But firstly, all conference sessions can be accessed via the main menu on the conference platform. So mae'r holl dogfennau ar gael ar wefan y cynhadledd yma yn Gymraeg. So the conference sessions will include access to the virtual hub, which has all the speaker information and biographies. So please familiarize yourself with the platform and also the agenda, so you know where you need to be and at what time. Get involved in the conference. There'll be plenty of opportunity for you to contribute. In particular, I want to draw your attention to the menu on the right hand of your screen, where you'll be able to see all the different tabs with functions and content related to the session. You can use the Q&A function to ask your questions and make comments throughout. We'll endeavour to answer as many questions and with many answers as possible. Clearly, if you'd like some slide materials to be sent to you after the conference is over, you need to go to the download tab in each session menu and turn on Send Me the Contents. Once that is switched on the slide material, this will be automatically be sent to you. Cofiwch drydaru. We encourage you to tweet throughout the conference using our hashtag GW21 and tagging us at Wales_global. All sessions will be recorded and available within the platform via the same joining link one day after the event has taken place. So that's the formality over. It's a great joy for me to introduce you to the Global Wales Conference. Many of you will know that Global Wales has actually broken the paradigm. It's a partnership between Universities Wales, British Council Wales, the Higher Education Funding Council for Wales, and the Welsh Government. The Welsh Government provides strategic support to the Welsh higher education sector as an export industry and builds networks for Wales internationally. Global Wales was established in 2015, and the programme underwent a major expansion in 2018 with the support of EU transition funding. Global Wales focuses upon 4 priority markets: the United States, India, and Vietnam, and now the European Union. Market development work ranging from the recruitment activities to capacity building projects, diplomatic delegations and visits are all undertaken as part of building Wales's profile, increasing academic and educational partnerships, and attracting students and researchers to Wales. Unique to Global Wales is its ability to engage in system-to-system development, leveraging all elements of the Welsh higher education system to respond quickly and innovatively in terms of our partner country interaction. Global Wales has also developed a range of scholarships to support its work, partnering with some of the most prestigious scholarship programme organisations globally: Fulbright, Chevening, Gilman, and others, as well as, of course, our flagship Global Wales Scholarship. Recently, the Study in Wales brand was aligned with the Welsh Government's Cymru Wales brand, which also forms a central part of Global Wales. Particularly pleased to acknowledge the Welsh Government's commitment to the Global Wales Programme and its growth to 2026 and beyond. I'd like to thank British Council and HEFCW for their part in the success of Global Wales and support in developing its ambitious programme over the last 6 years. In particular, what we have achieved to date is bringing together in a unique collaborative way key assets that the UK and Wales can access globally, and in particular, the British Council staff in priority countries. And British Council staff in priority countries such as Vietnam was absolutely crucial in developing the relationships further. It's a great pleasure for me to note that we are joined today with so many distinguished partners and guests, including His Excellency Professor Hoang Minh Son, Vice Minister for Education, Vietnam, and also the Chairman of the Telangana government, that is to say, Professor Papi Reddy, who is here as a substitute for the Minister for Education, Minister Indra Reddy, who is unfortunately now not disposed. It's also a great pleasure to welcome Jeremy Miles, who is the member of Senedd as the Minister for Education for Wales. We have other representatives from the US State Department, the European Commission, the Institute for International Education, as well as the UK International Education Champion, Sir Steve Smith. At the same time, we have our scholarship partners of the UK-US Fulbright Commission, the Chevening Programme, and the British Council. So this is a particular timely point in our international strategies. And today is really digging a little deeper into some of the issues that are really germane to the development of Global Wales, and particularly the international learning experience and education programme that has recently been launched by the Welsh Government. So we look forward to benefiting from your insights and also, of course, those of our distinguished speakers today. We really hope you enjoy the event. Ond I ddechrau, mae'n hyfrydwch mawr I fi gyflwyno Jeremy Miles. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce today Jeremy Miles to give his keynote address. Jeremy Miles is the Welsh Government Minister for Education and the Welsh Language. Gweinidog addysg a'r iaith Gymraeg. Jeremy was elected to the Welsh Parliament for the Neath constituency in May 2016 as the Labour and Cooperative Party candidate. In November 2017, Jeremy was appointed Counsel General, and in December 2018, he was appointed Counsel General as well as Minister for Brexit. Jeremy was appointed Minister for Education and the Welsh Language after the recent election. So without any more ado, croeso, Jeremy Miles.
Wel, diolch o galon Iwan am y cyflwyniad caredig hwnnw, a diolch yn fawr I Gwen a'r tîm yn Global Wales am fy ngwahodd I siarad yma heddi. Thanks, Iwan, for that warm introduction, and thanks to Gwen and the team at Global Wales for inviting me to speak with you today. And I was absolutely delighted to accept the opportunity. The importance of international collaborations is something I'm really passionate about, and will certainly be a real focus for me over the next term of government. So let me first say hello bawb, diolch am ymuno heddi. Rwy'n siŵr y bydd hi'n diwrnod diddorol iawn a chyfle gwirioneddol I ehangu eich gorwelion a'ch cysylltiadau byd-eang. Thank you to everyone for joining this talk. It's wonderful to see so many of you from around the world and across Wales. As Iwan was saying, I was recently appointed as the Minister for Education and the Welsh Language, and I'm particularly aware, perhaps in that capacity, of the benefits of multilingualism. It's something we do every day here in Wales and is deep-rooted in all our education providers. And that attitude, that approach, I think, makes us particularly well suited to partner with countries around the world. I'd like to talk to you today about my approach to international education and some of the initiatives that we in the Welsh Government are funding to support it, as well as how we are building in a more international approach into our day-to-day strategies across education providers in Wales. I guess that the approach which I have to international education is exemplified by the International Learning Exchange Programme that we announced in March of this year. This is a commitment of £65 million over the next 5 years, and it will aim to ensure that as we overcome the pandemic and borders and doors are able to open again, that Wales is ready and waiting to seize opportunities and forge new partnerships across the world. And the programme will fund a wide range of international education exchanges, both for learners and for staff in all educational settings and including youth work. It incorporates the hallmarks of what I believe is essential for international partnerships to be successful, and indeed what makes them so valuable. Inclusivity, diversity, it is wide-ranging, and perhaps most important of all, based fundamentally on the idea of mutual respect. So let me talk a little bit about each of those in a little more detail. Inclusivity. Our programme, as I was saying, is for learners and staff at all levels and in all education settings. I believe that the positive effects of international mobility and collaboration are vast and are varied, and that the benefits which they bring can be brought to all and benefit all. So I want all students in our universities to have the opportunity to travel abroad and have new, challenging and exciting opportunities. And I also want the lecturers to be exposed to and inspired by new and innovative teaching approaches from countries overseas. I think there are many things that we in Wales can continue to learn really from taking an international perspective, and I want to ensure that we support learning those lessons in as many ways as we can. With regard to diversity, our programme is going to have a strong emphasis on ensuring the opportunities it provides are for everyone, no matter their means, their background, or indeed anything else. And that's principally why we've included all education sectors within the scope of the programme. We've got ambitious targets for Black, Asian and minority ethnic participation, as well as participation from other groups which are underrepresented. And we are designing a programme now that will do all that it can to accommodate everybody, including by providing short mobilities and ensuring that costs, such as the cost of passports, for example, don't deter people from participating, particularly those perhaps who may never or have rarely been overseas before. I really want to make sure that at the heart of the programme is the idea that experiencing the opportunities which the globe represents, if I can put it like that, is for everybody. The programme will be wide-ranging, and so the whole world, in a sense, is open with this programme. There are no geographic restrictions. We are going to support study and work in all parts of the world, and if you have an idea that will contribute to your education or development and are part of a Welsh education provider, I want the ILE programme to support that. And I firmly believe there is something to be learned from everyone and everywhere. And I want Wales and our learners to be exposed to as many new cultures and ideas as possible. I spoke about mutual respect, and this really is at the heart of the programme, and in some ways is perhaps the most important message from me for all our international colleagues joining us today. I understand that international partnerships take time, they require trust, and investment on both sides. And I also understand that resources to support this kind of activity are not equal in all places or all providers. And as I said, I want to be able to work through this program with all countries in the world. That is why a fundamental principle of the international learning exchange is reciprocity, the mutual exchange of people and ideas. I guess the question is, what does that mean in practice? Well, every single grant agreement to a Welsh provider from the ILE programme will allow for up to 30% of the funding to be used to support inward mobility, bringing your students, your staff to us, just as we send ours to you. And the message to us from across Europe regarding the loss of Erasmus Plus was loud and clear. That many partnerships would no longer be able to continue. And this programme, which I think is decisive and ambitious, will ensure that will not happen. And that the opportunities to study, work and learn in the fantastic universities and education providers across Europe and obviously elsewhere remain available. And we are extending those opportunities beyond Europe as well, obviously. It also means our education providers, student experiences and local communities are enriched, if you like, by the infusion of culture and expertise that students and staff coming to study and work in Wales bring with them. We highly value your students and staff coming to spend time in Wales, and I think that the benefits that they bring spread through our education providers. That means bringing internationalization, internationalism into the classroom, onto campuses, so that even those who don't travel abroad during their studies are still able to benefit. And I hope that when your students and staff return, they'll take with them a clear message to spread, which is that Wales is an outward-looking, a welcoming nation that embraces international partnerships and collaboration. I was very disappointed when the UK government announced they were not going to participate in Erasmus Plus, as they didn't believe it was good value for money. My view has always been that it's difficult to calculate the value of a life-changing experience. That experience, in a sense, is often priceless, and that is my focus. It's changing and improving lives and education across Wales, and international travel and collaboration has a key role to play in that. So I hope the International Learning Exchange Programme encourages you all to work with us and our wonderful education providers, and that as a result that we will have stronger, lasting connections that cross borders. And I hope it tells you very clearly about my approach to international education, that I value it very highly, that I'm ambitious for its future in Wales, and that I place a huge importance on the principles of mutual respect that are at the core of long-term partnerships that succeed. The ILE programme also provided support for a new phase of the Global Wales Project, which is, as we heard at the start by Iwan, being conducted on the principles that I set out above, and which I'm really enthusiastic to see expanding in the coming years. The number of you here today, I think, is testament to the early success that we've had with the project, and I'm excited to see it grow even more in the future. I know the ministers from Telangana and Vietnam are in attendance today, and I hope they would echo my belief in the great rewards that relationships conducted on the principles I mentioned earlier, particularly that idea of respect, can yield. And I look forward to hearing from you both and to building closer still links in the future. I'm particularly looking forward to visiting both of your wonderful countries and trying some of the excellent food and enjoying your culture, just one of the many benefits of international exchange. What Global Wales shows is that Wales, although we are a small country, we're dynamic and we are agile. And we have world-class universities and a modern, ambitious approach to international collaboration and research. But we have the size as well to develop really close ties, what Global Wales describe as their system-to-system approach, with collaboration at all levels, including government. And this approach means that those close partnerships like the ones we've developed in recent years can grow into highly valued relationships very quickly. And I look forward to nurturing those partnerships further in future. And they show, I think, a real strength of Wales, that we can respond quickly to new opportunities and deliver in world-class areas. And as Global Wales grows in the coming years, in addition to its current focus on India, Vietnam, the United States, I expect it to have an increasing role to play in our networks and relationships with universities and colleges across Europe. And for those of you from countries in particular, for those countries in particular, I would encourage you to speak with Gwen and her team about the opportunities for close collaboration we may be able to develop together in the future. I also want to ensure that the approach to the world that I've outlined so far actually is embedded in everything that we do as a nation. The Wellbeing of Future Generations Act is at the heart of everything that we do in the Welsh Government. And one of the 7 goals that it sets out is for everything we do to contribute to a more globally responsible Wales. We take our responsibility to the international community so seriously that we've put into law the consideration of whether any actions we take may make a positive contribution to global well-being. We are in the process now of finalising a new approach to our post-16 education system for Wales through the creation of the new Commission for Tertiary Education and Research. And I am committed to ensuring that it adopts this responsibility, building on the important work done through the initiatives that we've been talking about, the ILE programme, Global Wales, and embedding a global outlook into everything that we do. And the Commission will be expected to do what it can to promote opportunities for people in Wales to study or teach elsewhere in the world, creating deeper collaborations between education providers here and across the globe. By promoting opportunities for carrying out research in partnership with people and institutions elsewhere in the world, and in doing that, they'll, I think, create wide-ranging benefits for their own learners and staff, with real potential to reach out to the wider community that they're embedded in. At the same time, I realise that many providers and internationally recognised institutions already have, of course, strong international partnerships. And as the regulator and funder of the tertiary sector, the Commission will need to be mindful of those, encouraging them wherever possible, enabling them to continue to recruit international students in our changing world. So I hope, in concluding, that what I've said today resonates with you, and I hope that the wonderful programme of talks and discussions that the Global Wales team have set up for you today encourage you to think about what more you can do with Wales. We are ambitious about the future. We are eager to work with you. And if you're unsure how to start a partnership, then please just reach out, as I say, to Gwen and the team at Global Wales, and I'm sure they will be ready and eager indeed to help you make connections here. Felly, edrychai ymlaen at glywed am y cyfnewidfeydd y partneriaethau a'r cyfeillgarwch rhyngwladol sy'n cael ei gefnogi gan ein rhaglen cyfnewid dysgu rhyngwladol. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you very much.
Well, diolch yn fawr iawn, Gweinidog. Thank you so much, Minister. Just a few key headlines there in the keynote speech, really around mutuality of respect, reciprocity, outward looking, and of course, grounded on principle, which essentially are the principles in the really innovative and important Wellbeing and Future Generations Act, which is something unique to the legislative process in Wales, which we're very proud of, a globally responsible Wales, positive contribution to the future of the world. A small country like Wales can make a difference. And what the International Learning Exchange Programme really demonstrates is that commitment of outward looking and also ensuring that these reciprocal arrangements take time to build up. Can I say at this stage that we are now joined by ministers from Vietnam, Associate Professor Hoang Minh Son, Deputy Minister for Education and Training, and also we are joined by Professor Papi Reddy, chairman of the Telangana State Council. I'd like to introduce now for the next session, Professor Son. Professor Son is a great friend of Wales and a great friend of Global Wales, and he is going to refer to collaboration on the higher education reform agenda. Professor Hong Min Son is Deputy Minister for Education and Training at Vietnam. He is really part of the Higher Education Partnership Programme and visited Wales in December 2018. He was formerly president and is now Vice Minister of the Ministry for Education and Training. He's president, of course, of HUST, which is one of the distinguished universities in Vietnam. He's responsible as part of his brief for teacher training development, technology application, and for higher education. Before his ascendancy to the chair and also minister, he was, as I've just mentioned, president of HUST, which is the Hanoi University of Science and Technology. He has really been a key part of the transformative education of Vietnam. And really, he has been involved in a number of key themes in ensuring and developing world-leading considerations in the higher education landscape in Vietnam, particularly reflecting on important themes for all universities around autonomy, leadership, governance, and quality assurance. He has contributed his expertise to developing various university models, and particularly the way in which universities can embrace the new industrial revolution of 4.0, and the way that actually has an impact on the development of universities, the governance of universities, and the mission of universities going forward. So can I therefore introduce Professor Hong Min Son.
Hello. His Excellency, Mr. Chamberlain Miles, Minister for Education and Welsh Languages. Dear Professor Ivan Davis, Chairman of Global Wales. Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Vietnam Ministry of Education and Training, I'm very glad to be here today, and thank you very much for giving me the chance to share ideas of education development among us. At the very first, we must say that we highly appreciate the cooperation results of two sides since the MOU was signed in January 2019 on the occasion of our ministerial official visit in the UK. In spite of COVID-19 disease spread in the world, the UK was one of the most affected regions. Our cooperation achievements have gained remarkably. More than 100 leaders of higher education institutions joined in the offline and online workshop between 2019 and 2020. We established the close and strong networks among 5 Vietnamese universities and 8 Welsh universities, and have sent many young Vietnamese candidates to study in Wales in 2020. And I also appreciate our action plan and implement the MOU in 2021 in the years to come. On behalf of the Ministry of Education and Training, I'm highly delighted with the success of the Welsh government in higher education, like teaching curriculum renovation, science and technology innovation, innovation and startup, higher education evaluation and verification. As you may know, Vietnam is now implementing the comprehensive reform of national education system from kindergarten, primary, secondary schooling to higher education. And we're focusing on highly qualified human resources. On this long way road, we seek for support and help from countries with developed education system, especially from UK and Wales. Therefore, I would like to have suggestions and recommendations from you, and also ask for Welsh government's support and collaboration, especially in the following fields. We'd like to have experiences and expertise in enhancing our higher education institutions' autonomy. We'll seek for support for improving our higher education governance and management, especially in the autonomy phase, including experts to help building up the program standards, various majors and fields of studies, the standards and norms for higher education institutions, also for assessment and evaluations instruments. We would like also to see more centers for quality assessment and accreditations representatives in Vietnam. We would like to invite the centers, the agencies for quality accreditations from UK, from Wales, to be present in Vietnam. We will seek support for enhancing and implementing digital transform in education in general, and also in higher education in particular. Now we are also in build up a new master plan for education system in Vietnam for the next decades, and we also need the support and expertise from Welsh government and experts. One of our very interest projects, the project 989, in order to improve the capacity of higher education managers, administrators, and especially young lecturers. We would like to send young lecturers to developed countries to get PhD degrees, and we also seek the support from Welsh government to supporting us. In the recent years, we also have cooperation in seeking support from Wales government in terms of stipends for our young lecturers, and the selections of the candidates until now is implemented by the chairman of the UK government. We also want to have more active role of our ministry for selection of the candidates. And we hope that the next time more students from Vietnam will get a scholarship and stipends from Wales government. And also we seek for partial supports from the Wales government for the scholarship and for exchange of students. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Minister. We're really grateful for the insightful remarks and also the support shown to the collaboration between Wales and Vietnam. I'm anxious now that we make progress in terms of our program, and it's my great pleasure also now to introduce the next speaker. The next speaker is Professor Papi Reddy, and Papi Reddy is the chairman of the Telangana State Council of Higher Education. Professor Reddy is stepping in for the Minister for Higher Education, Minister Indra Reddy, who has been called away to an urgent meeting by the Prime Minister. But we are familiar with Professor Reddy. He was the chief architect of the MOU between the Telangana government and the Welsh government, and we're really pleased to have his involvement in today's conference. It's true to say that he is a visionary leader, and he has really directed and propelled the partnership between the two governments. Under his leadership, the Telangana State Higher Education Council has designed and developed path-breaking curriculum reform programs that will really create a positive impact across the liberal arts institutions in the state academic areas of activity. So, Professor Papi Reddy, We're really interested in hearing your remarks and your insights into how the partnership and the Global Wales relationship with the Telangana state government can progress. So over to you now, Professor Reddy.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your kind words to me. I cordially greet Jeremy Moyles, the Education Minister of Welsh Government, and Professor Wong Min Sa, Deputy Minister for Education and Training, Government of Vietnam. I appreciate the collaboration that your government is extending to Telangana state. The primary goal of international education is furthering knowledge and culture. International education has existed throughout time. In fact, the history recorded visits of scholars to India to pursue of knowledge. India always welcomed exchange of ideas and knowledge. We have historical records of Nalanda, Taxila, and Vikramasila that served as the meeting point of scholars from around the world. Though we are far from those glorious days, Indian education system is on its way to reconstruct itself. In the present day of technological transformation, particularly in the global economy, international education is a very important part of 21st century education. Telangana and Wales Memorandum of Understanding MOU was signed on 11th November 2020 to facilitate the development of mutually beneficial programs. It is aspired that the partnership would enhance research and innovation in Telangana and establish social and cultural link. While the main objective is to improve employability skills among students. In this direction, the state of Telangana has identified Banga and the Aberystwyth universities from Wales who would work in partnership with Usmania and Kakatiya universities of Telangana state. The target of the project is to revise, upgrade the curriculum and make it industry ready and relevant. This project became possible after the government of Telangana and the British Council of South India signed an MOU in October 2018 to strengthen the higher education and cultural cooperation. The partnership of Telangana State of Higher Education Council with British Council has enabled to organize, to enhance the leadership qualities, employability and skill development in higher education. Both the British Council of India and the Telangana State Council, both have conducted two important events known as the Leadership Training Program and the International Seminar on Employability, Employment and Employability. Besides a delegation of 25 Vice Chancellors from UK universities visited Hyderabad to understand the perspectives of higher education in Telangana. The focus of this visit and the program was to engage with the top educational institutions, industry specialists, practitioners, and policymakers. In March 2020, an MOU was signed between Telangana State Council of Higher Education and British Council to work on various educational projects such as the revision of the curriculum for arts and commerce institutions with the intent of enhancing the employability opportunities. Foreign collaborations have become an important component of international ratings. Hence, the government, with a focus on science and technology, is progressively marching towards becoming a global leader in industrialization and technological development. Indian higher education institutions are working up to the opportunities of having an internationally diverse students body. The top institutions too are actively looking for foreign collaborations to further boost their ranking. At present, education is at the forefront of global development. I understand that education is an important source of soft power if it is pursued in the right direction. And education sought through international collaborations is to catalyst for leading change around the world. In the context, I myself, on behalf of the State Council of Telangana, congratulate to the British Council and the Wales University for coming together and answer the utmost need of the hour. I really thank the British Council of India and the Wales state and their universities have been extending wholehearted cooperation to give best practices and best systems of those universities to Telangana. I look forward for further development for future the kind of relations and kind of the programs for the benefit of the teachers and the students. Thank you.
Well, can I thank both distinguished visitors for their insightful remarks, and in particular Professor Papi Reddy and, of course, Professor Hwang Min Son. Can I, just before I invite Minister of Education, Welsh Language, Welsh Government to respond, just make a few remarks. Firstly, I think what we've heard is how transformative education can be. Indeed, Jeremy Miles mentioned that transformational experiences are, of course, priceless. And what we are actually looking to achieve here through the Global Wales programme and the reaching out is to really reflect on key transformative elements of the human endeavour. Professor Papi Reddy talked about science and technology. The Associate Professor Hwang Min Son referred to the importance of reform and the importance of reform as giving all students the opportunity really of experiences. What we are seeking to do through the ILE programme in collaboration with the Welsh Government is really take that to another level, which is really around mutuality of respect and opportunity. And as part of that process, it is so important that we are dynamic and agile. An important theme that also was very clear from the remarks of Professor Papi Reddy and also Professor Hwang Min Son was the role of the British Council. The British Council in South India in the context of Telangana and the British Council in Vietnam. I think the approach of close collaboration and working with the British Council is such an important unique selling point for the United Kingdom, and in particular in the context of where the Welsh Government can take advantage with Global Wales of working with the British Council so that we can actually really engage in proper educational dialogue based upon the principles that Minister Jeremy Miles referred to in his keynote address. Can I therefore turn then to Jeremy Miles to officially respond to the remarks of Professor Papi Reddy and also Professor Hwang Min Son. Jeremy.
Diolch yn fawr, Iwan, am y cyfle I ymateb. Thank you for the opportunity to respond. And can I thank Minister Son and Professor Reddy for their remarks. And I think it was very, very clear to me in the comments which both Minister Son and Professor Reddy shared with us, I know quite how valuable it is to have the kind of international partnerships that we have begun to build together, and the principles which I mentioned at the start, which animate our approach here in Wales, that question of mutual respect, of reciprocity, that ability to engage on an institutional level, but also on a systemic level. It's absolutely evident from your contributions that those principles also guide your ambitions and your work as well. Both Minister Son and Professor Reddy spoke about the memoranda of understanding which we have, and I think that is providing a real underpinning for some of the progress which both gentlemen already described as already being in existence, but also I am very, very optimistic that they provide very strong foundations for increasing the level of engagement between our governments. Minister Son talked about the strong network of relationships between universities in Vietnam and in Wales, and about the young Vietnamese students coming to Wales, and the ambition for us to see more Vietnamese lecturers and teaching staff coming to Wales as well. And we would strongly welcome that, and we would be very keen to work with you in the work that you are doing in relation to the reforms of your education system. I was really struck by the point that you made about the reform from, as you put it, kindergarten through to higher education. Very much mirrors the kind of thinking that has coloured our approach here in Wales, and would be very keen to share some experiences with you around that. At the very heart of this is that sense of sharing an experience and ideas, and we would be very, very keen, very, very keen to do that. Professor Reddy, I just want to say how much I welcome the work which is going on between Aberystwyth and Bangor universities and the universities at Osmania and Kakatiya. I think that is a very, very good development, and I wish the institutions very well in their work together. You reminded us of the importance of the international economic perspective on some of the initiatives that we have together, that idea of fostering innovation, of fostering global links, the focus on employability that you mentioned, which is so important and increasingly important in an international setting in the world that we live in. And I think that is exactly the right framing for some of the discussions that we have between us. There are three things, I think, which were common themes between the things we've all said this morning. Firstly, is that importance of the exchange of ideas. We all learn from discussing ideas in different parts of the world. That second thing is the exchange of experience, and certainly we can all learn from each other's experience. But the third thing, I think, which really characterizes, I guess, the entirety of this conference, is the importance of building those networks, that they become networked relationships that can be built upon and expanded and drawn upon for the mutual benefit of all the parties that engage with them, and the absolutely central role that institutions have in all our countries to nurture those and provide a context within which they can be developed, and those institutions working together in the way that you were saying, in a very collaborative, very cooperative way. So thank you, gentlemen, for your remarks this morning. It's been a pleasure to listen to you. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Mr. Jeremy Miles. I think that from my perspective, before we pass over to the next item on the agenda, just to reiterate the importance of networks, and what the ILE is seeking to do is create these networks of opportunity. Can I say that in the old economy, they used to talk about competitive advantage, but in the new economy, it's about collaborative advantage. And what the Global Wales and the ILE process does is actually bring countries together in a dramatic way. The curriculum reform, which is currently underway in Telangana, it's a great privileged to be part of that debate. What is education but a great debate? And so long as that debate is actually grounded in academic values and in the values of integrity, which are things which actually bring us together, those are very important attributes as we move forward. So I think that's a good point to pass on to the next item on the agenda. And the next item on the agenda is really to focus on the ILE, the International Learning Exchange Programme. We've referred obviously to the principles surrounding the ILE, which is around mutuality of respect, the issues around reciprocity in mutual exchange, the importance of inward mobility as well as outward mobility, and also how that is represented in deep policy commitment, as we see in Wales in the Wellbeing and Future Generations Act. So without any more ado, I'd like to really hand over now to Professor Colin Reardon, who is going to chair the next session on international learning exchange, really the global scheme, but with a particular European focus. And that's absolutely essential as we move forward now to a new relationship with the European Union, how important it is that we embed our relationship with friends in Europe and how we ensure that the mutuality of the exchange between partner countries is maintained. It's not necessary for me really to introduce my colleague, Professor Colin Reardon, who is, of course, Vice-Chancellor of Cardiff University. So Colin, over to you.
Thanks very much, Ewan, and hello, everybody. It's good to be here today, and I think this is an important occasion for us and for Wales. You'll be aware that, and I'm sure this has already been mentioned today, that in January 2020, the Welsh Government launched Wales's first ever international strategy, and I think that the International Learning Exchange Programme that Ewan mentioned there, and I know the Minister has also talked about, is a key element in that. I can see ways certainly in which, for sure, this is going to help the main aims of the international strategy of the Welsh Government. So it will certainly help to raise Wales's international profile. I think it will support the Welsh economy, and it will certainly help to establish Wales as a globally responsible nation, rather in line with some of the remarks that we've just heard a moment ago. So I do see this as a key element in all of that. So I would say that the International Learning Exchange Programme is a working title, and I'll come on in a moment to say a little bit more about it. This session is called Focus on the International Exchange Programme, a global scheme with a European focus. And I think that's quite key to all of this. I'm asked to encourage you to join the online discussions via Twitter and the hashtag #GW21, and to follow the @WalesGlobal and @UUK events accounts. There is going to be there is a chat Q&A function, so you can post your questions, and we welcome questions on anything that should come up during this session, and I'll be able to put those on your behalf to the panelists. So please do add your questions, and we'll try to get through as many as we can. So I'll just say a little bit more about the International Learning Exchange Programme before introducing our panelists today, who will give us a basis for further discussion and questions. So as I said, the ILEP, I'm going to call it the ILEP, it's just a bit shorter than International Learning Exchange Programme, is a working title, and I think something a bit snappier will be come up with over the next few weeks and months. It's been very well funded, to the tune, as you know, of £65 million over the period up until 2026, which is extremely far-sighted, I think, on the part of the Welsh Government, and it's certainly the by far the best funded scheme proportionately in the UK. And it does cover the whole range. It covers universities, of course, as I certainly am very well aware of, but it covers further education, vocational education and training, adult education, as well as youth work settings and schools. So it really is as comprehensive as Erasmus+. So it will allow strategic partnerships and will allow us to cover any gaps left by our departure from Erasmus+. And you'll be aware that the policy of the Welsh Government is, as far as possible, despite the UK's departure from Erasmus, to be able to continue with the benefits of that scheme from a Welsh perspective as much as possible. But it will go beyond, the strategic focus is clearly Europe, but it will offer flexibility to range across the globe. So I think it does give us a whole range of extra opportunities. And I think, with the Turing scheme and the ILEP, Welsh or students enrolled at Welsh institutions and staff at Welsh institutions and young people in Wales will have absolutely unparalleled opportunities to spend time abroad and also to welcome visitors from abroad, their counterparts. Cardiff University has been entrusted with delivering the programme. What's that? So I think it was a bit of an accidental intervention there. So Cardiff University has been entrusted with delivering the programme. That's building on the success that we've had as an institution, having strategically prioritised student mobility now for almost a decade. And we're very proud of our record on that, having more than doubled the number of our own students who spend time abroad while they're with us here at Cardiff. And a fundamental principle, as we've heard, I think both from the Minister and from Ewan, is of reciprocity. So for any exchange, 30% of the funding will be available to bring participants to Wales, as well as to send people out. And we've heard a bit about the reasons for that, why that's important. One of the most important things is that it's much easier to build partnerships when you can offer something for the other partner, and I think that will be of great benefit over the period. And the aim by 2026 is to send 15,000 Welsh participants abroad and to receive 10,000 participants into Wales, to create at least 50 new multi-annual partnerships across Welsh organisations, and I'm sure that's achievable and probably more, and that the programme should encompass more than 40 countries. So this really is ambitious, and it very clearly, whilst the strategic focus is on Europe, it will go beyond Europe. It's also going to fund the continuation and development of Global Wales with a really substantial allocation over the period that's going to support higher education in much broader ways, and in particular for the benefit of Wales. Higher education is a key export industry for Wales, which we are, and as we are for the UK, and it will generate, I think, multiple benefits for the nation, which will have knock-on effects, in my view, lasting for years. So that's a sense of the context, and I can talk more if desired about where we are with the programme. It's in the early stages of development at the moment, but we're intending to be able to invite applications from next spring so that the first students can travel just over a year's time at the beginning of the next academic year. So I come to our panel, and it's a great pleasure to welcome our four panellists. The first is Professor Eva Maria Feichtner, who is the Vice President for International and Diversity. Morning, Eva. Nice to see you at the Universität Bremen in northern Germany.
Good morning.
Morning. Then we have Kostis Giannidis, who's the President of the Erasmus Student Network. You're very welcome, Kostis, and it's great to have the student voice, particularly from Erasmus.
Good morning.
We have it's a great pleasure to welcome Claire Howman, who's just come up on the screen there, Policy Officer at the Director at the DG Education and Culture at the European Commission. Welcome.
Good morning.
Thank you. And we have our own Professor Maria Hinfelaar, who's the Vice Chancellor of Wrexham Glyndŵr University, who is going to pop up at any moment. There she is. Hi, Maria. Okay.
Good morning, all. Pleased to see you all. Hello.
Hi. So each panelist is now going to have just about 5 minutes to set out their thoughts on the topic for today. And as I say, it's really great to have these different perspectives. Costas from a student point of view, particularly as an Erasmus alumnus himself, Claire from the Commission, with whom we would still like to be able to work as closely as is possible, and Aoife's perspective from a European university, and of course our own from Maria in Wales. So we'll start with Aoife. Aoife, if you'd like to give your short presentation, please.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be here, to be part of this event. I'm happy to add the German perspective, or say the perspective of a German university. So let's put it in brief. We're coming to terms with the loss of the Erasmus Plus as the foundation and base of our UK mobility programs and efforts. After initial consternation, it's now rather a phase of, well, looking ahead, rethinking mobility, embracing new possibilities. The University of Bremen, who are we? So University of Bremen in a nutshell, it's a mid-sized comprehensive university, 20,000 students, about 3,500 staff. We are just turning 50 this year, so founded in the aftermath of the student process in the late 60s. Still much having an emphasis on interdisciplinarity, on societal concern. We have seen quite a mobility among our students with UK universities. We were holding exactly 27 Erasmus contracts with various institutions. We saw about 60 outgoing students every year, additional 15 students doing internships in the UK. So we're looking obviously for a new base for that. Just to underline the importance, we have a number of study programs with a mandatory study abroad semester in an English-speaking country. That applies to the teacher education in English language, and that applies to a bachelor master's program in English-speaking cultures. So we obviously need to look for opportunities for these students. We need to rethink the programs here. Obviously, students are facing increased costs. They are facing the lack of the Erasmus framework, not only in terms of funding, but also in terms of infrastructure, the lack of stipends, the tuition fees that have been raised substantially. Some uncertainty when it comes to internships, so things are not quite straightened out yet. It's not clear what the perspective is. Something we need to address. What needs to be added maybe at this point to see how much, or to understand how much of a problem this is, we pretty much in Germany, there is a lack of an established student loan system. It simply doesn't exist, and so there's little base for students to face these increased costs. We're certainly also thinking about healing the imbalance in mobility that we have seen in the latest years in Erasmus. So we need to ask ourselves, what makes a German university attractive for students from the UK if we're thinking about reciprocal programs here, and we certainly want to think about that. What's our coin in this? What can we offer? And there's also the issue of staff exchange, which we're trying to build up, of course, which works pretty well in the research context, but in the professional service context needs to be enhanced over and over again. So how do we create incentives here? Something we want to rethink. I want to put forward essentially two key facts that we associate with the new mobility schemes that we are thinking of, and of course we're looking with great anticipation at the ILEP emerging in Wales. First, we see that we need to focus on strategic partnerships. So rather than offering a broad variety of contracts to our students, we want to present a small number of partner universities with well-established collaborations. It means that student exchange also will be thought of from a research base, research driven, and things kind of trickle down to the educational programs. We have a wonderful example for this. University of Bremen and Cardiff University have started an alliance in 2019, kind of anticipating Brexit, but not only driven by that. We are building on, but of course, thinking beyond research collaboration. There are a number of focus areas addressed, but in principle, it's supposed to be an open topic, and we'll see to build this up even more intensely. Second point, I think we should emphasize the flexibility of formats. We should step away from the classical semester abroad idea. For many students, this is not feasible and will be increasingly difficult to face this. And to some extent, I guess it's also the reason for the imbalance we see. We feel a need to focus or concentrate on shorter formats, on lower threshold formats, to make mobility more accessible, more inclusive. Especially at the University of Bremen, we have a high percentage of first-generation students. For them, the idea of studying abroad is just the second big idea after studying it all. So this needs to be introduced, this needs to be facilitated. Also, we of course have a high number of students with family responsibilities, caring responsibilities. Also for them, the international experience should be open, and low threshold formats in terms of duration, in terms of level should facilitate this a lot. We also see, and of course want to concentrate on that, a high benefit of including digital means. We learned a lot in this last year about how much digital formats can bring people closer to each other, can steer the idea that spending time abroad and grasping this experience, how valuable this can be. A wonderful experience with Cardiff, actually. There was a student seminar in the spring on sustainability entrepreneurship. 30 students from either end participating in 2 weeks' time. Great feedback. Also, enthusiastic instructors, by the way, who also said that this type of international teaching experience was very rewarding. So I think these 2 points point a bit the direction of where things could be going, and we hope to be working on that together. Thank you so much.
Great, thanks, Irfa. That was really interesting. You actually raised some very interesting points there that I think we'll want to come back to, particularly on accessibility and inclusivity, which I think are key in all of this. So we now come on to Kostis Giannidis, who, as I said, is the president of the Erasmus Student Network.
Yes, thank you very much, Colin. First of all, I have to say that I'm very excited to be part of this event today, because we at the Erasmus Student Network, from the moment that we heard about the initiative of creating this program, we embraced it, and we tried to be vocal as well, and we tried to support it in order for as many students to be aware of this opportunity that is coming. So a few words about the Erasmus Student Network, in case that you don't know us. We are a pan-European organization. We exist in 42 countries. It was established more than 30 years ago as a result of the launching of the Erasmus program back then. And nowadays we support around 350,000 international students in one of those 42 countries that we have local associations. The focus of our local associations is to welcome the international students in their communities, to make them understand how the community works, the society, to make friends and feel comfortable in another country. And one of our mission, the mission of ESN, is basically the enrichment of society through international students. Myself, I have been part of the Erasmus Plus program, and I had the opportunity to do my exchange in UK 7 or 8 years ago at Durham University. So as a student who have studied in UK, when I heard that UK won't be part of the Erasmus Plus program anymore, I was I have to say that I was very disappointed. And many of us who have done an exchange in UK, or many of us who know the importance of reciprocal mobility, were very worried about the future of mobilities in UK. Of course, we embraced the Turing program from the beginning. Our member organization UK, the ESN UK, is supporting all the actors in promoting the program. But when it comes to the program that the Welsh government has created, this is full in line with the values and the mission of ESN, because we believe that mobility should always be reciprocal. It's not only about sending your students abroad in another country. It's about also bringing young people from so different backgrounds, different perspectives, and through all these people together, then you enrich the society. Myself, as I said, when I did my Erasmus in UK, but when I came back to Thessaloniki in Greece, where is my home university, I stayed around with international students, and I had the opportunity to live mobility in my own home university, because I was always with so many students from Spain, Italy, UK, other countries. So I felt that even in my local community, I had this internationalization experience. So we very much applaud the Wales Mobility Program, and ESN is here to support this initiative. We are here to support the Welsh universities, both from our member university in ESN UK, who has local branches in Wales universities, but also as a pan-European network, because as I said, we have local associations in more than 1,000 universities around Europe. So when you send your students abroad, we will definitely have volunteers taking care of them in another university in any country that they will choose to go within Europe. And when it comes to the benefits of mobility, I'm sure that you're already aware of them. But for me, it was a very important exercise to get more confident about myself, to become more independent, to be able to leave from my country and go to another country where everything is totally different, like even the way that the cars are driven in the streets, or the currency, the language, everything was much more different than what I used to do as a student in Thessaloniki in Greece. So this actually helped me and opened my horizons. And now, since I did my first Erasmus exchange, I became more active citizen. I became more active in associations like in ESN, more active in different, let's say, volunteering opportunities. And I had the chance also to go again on Erasmus. And now I'm actually living in Brussels in a very international environment. And if it wasn't for my Erasmus experience, for my mobility experience, then I wouldn't have pursued the path that I have today. So we are very happy to see that the Welsh government is really understanding the importance of this reciprocal mobility, and the importance of young people have the chance to live abroad in another country. And with this, I will finish this short intervention. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kostas. That was an incredibly, if I may say so, inspiring and eloquent explanation of why reciprocal mobilities are important. And I've been involved in them myself really all my professional life. I set up an Erasmus network when Erasmus started, when I was a young lecturer myself, a lecturer in German. So I'm very aware of that. So we come on now to Claire Herman, who, as I said, is Policy Officer in the DG Education Culture in the European Commission. And Claire's going to give us a perspective from the Commission, please.
Yes. Good morning. Thank you for having invited us. So first of all, I would like to express our regret following the UK decision not to be associated to the Erasmus Plus program. But as the German colleague said, now we have to look ahead. The second message I wanted to pass is also that all ongoing activities, so all the Erasmus Plus supported projects from the last and previous year, which are not closed, are still continuing. And you know that because of the COVID crisis, we have some money left and some extension of the project. So please use this opportunity until the very end of the program. For the new Erasmus Plus, there are 4 main priorities to make the program greener, and we will support in terms also of finances the green travel of participants, give them more time to travel and use alternative transports, to make our program more digital with also new blended mobility or blending intensive programs foreseen. Also to make the program more inclusive. And here is very much in line of your own Wales program. I listened to your minister, and he very much underlined the inclusive aspect, and it's really a common priority. And also the fourth priority, to make our program more international by opening even more activities to non-European or not what we call not associated countries. So now the UK is considered as a third country, as a non-associated country. The fact that I am working in an international unit of DG EAC is also a sign that now we have to build something new with UK partners. So there are some remaining opportunities under the new program, so beyond the closing of the previous one. The first one I wanted to underline is the Erasmus Mundus Joint Master Programs, which is a good opportunity for UK universities, because they can be not only partners, so they can be partner, but also applicant. And these are quite generous grants to support the functioning of Erasmus Mundus Joint Master degrees, to pay some scholarships and also management component for each student. And beyond that, we created under the new program what we call Erasmus Mundus Design Measures. And these are a smaller and shorter project of 15 months to help and support partners from 3 different countries to design high-level new master programs. So that could be also an opportunity for UK universities to work with previous European partners. Beyond this scheme, we also, you probably heard, will open the classical intra-EU mobility action to outgoing mobility, so from Europe to non-associated countries, so beyond Europe, also in a limit of 20% of our budget. So it could be also an opportunity for Welsh universities to host also European staff and students, so beyond what was done in the past. And finally, also don't forget that beyond mobility, we also have cooperation projects, be they cooperation partnerships or central center of vocational excellence, which can also involve enterprises, vet providers, and universities, alliances for innovations. All these cooperation tools can be also open to UK partners. So as partners, they have to prove their added value in the projects, which is for me, they are really very well placed to do so because of their long Erasmus Plus previous experience. So that's I'm sure that the UK actors will very much use these remaining opportunities. And very finally, also keep in mind that we have the Jean Monnet Action, which supports the knowledge and research on EU integration and EU policies, history, laws, etc. So if you still have a very committed teacher wanting to participate, it's also open worldwide. So I will stop here, and I'm happy to answer further questions in the second phase of this session. Thank you.
Thanks very much indeed, Claire. That was really interesting and helpful, and some very helpful reminders there that Erasmus still continues, and we certainly have students who are still on Erasmus for this year and into the future, and that there are new opportunities for us as an associated country in due or non-associated country in due course. Just a reminder to delegates that please do put any questions you'd like to put. If you're on a PC, you'll see a red button at the bottom right of your screen where you can pose those questions, and it may be slightly different on a mobile device, but I'm sure you'll find where you can do that. Okay, so we now come on to Maria Hinfalar, who is going to give us a sense of the perspective from Welsh universities. Maria, over to you.
Good morning all. Thanks, Colin. And I'd like to also thank my fellow panelists for some really exciting contributions. So I was asked to talk specifically about the benefits for students and staff and researchers of mobility, two-way mobility, as we are talking about here, in the context of the ILEP scheme, or whatever it's going to be called, and I'm sure we can come up with a better name. So what are the benefits of international mobility? And I can speak a little bit of my personal experience, because I'm a Dutch national. I started my studies at Leiden University in the Netherlands. This was pre-Erasmus, but I was in the fortunate position that I was able to avail of a scholarship opportunity, which brought me to the UK as a master's student. And that was a really immersive experience, which I'm sure actually changed my whole perspective. It changed my career prospects. It changed my experience of culture in another country, because it was an immersive experience. If you spend a whole year as a student on a scholarship scheme or an exchange scheme or whatever it may be, it really gets you under the skin of that other culture. It's breathing a different air, it's seeing different places, meeting new people. This was on a master's program with international students as well from many other countries. And that in itself was also an enriching experience. And of course, fast forward so many years, I'm now a vice chancellor at a university within the UK. And I am actually convinced that would not have happened if I hadn't had that initial full year as an exchange student on this scholarship to do a master's degree at a British university. Now, I went back to the Netherlands and started my career in education in the Netherlands. I did a PhD subsequently, but I had an international mindset, and it was always my ambition at some stage in my career to leave the Netherlands, leave my academic career there. I went to Ireland for a number of years, and then here I am in Wales as a Vice Chancellor of a university. So quite a journey. But it all started, to my mind, with that experience as an international mobility student. So the first thing really is, it's the formative experience, it's getting under the skin of another culture, and that opportunity is so incredibly valuable. And of course, it brings new insights into your field of study as well. That's a given. That also happens as part of the experience. The second key benefit of international mobility is that it is funded at the end of the day. This is an opportunity, which is a privilege. The travel is funded, the actual study program is funded. They're usually closed pocket arrangements, so you don't have to worry about paying the fees. And what is also really important as part of that model is that you are, as an international exchange student, you're part of the wraparound support services structures at your host institution. So you will have to support, you're obviously embarking on quite an adventure, moving to a different country, a different place, you don't know anybody, but you're immediately part of that community, and that is really important that all of that is in place. And then the third key point is that this is an opportunity as an international student in another country to forge new friendships, and they are friendships for life. I still have contacts with people that I met when I spent that year at Leicester University in the UK as a scholarship student, and that will stay with me for the rest of my life. So then, from a staff perspective, again, it's really enriching. Staff mobility is an important part of the model. And again, speaking from experience, over the years, I've seen really successful programs and projects at Wrexham Glyndŵr University in the past few years, where we've had Polish and Dutch lecturers on our arts and design program. working side by side with our academic staff and doing some really exciting projects with our students, and also benefiting our wider community, because we were working with our local arts centre, and we were also working with a local Polish community in Wrexham as part of some of these projects that the students were undertaking under the supervision of Dutch, Polish, and indeed, of course, British academic staff. So it's that enriching experience from the perspective of the professional careers, the experience that's teaching staff can also have. They tend to be briefer excursions. They tend to be 3 week, 2 week, 3 week exchange program, but that is really helpful as well. And then, of course, another opportunity which people can pick up as staff or researchers is to immerse themselves in the research environment. So, for instance, a lab environment or doing field work as part of research connections that can be built. So, all in all, it's a good news story all round. I'm certainly looking forward, as the Vice Chancellor of Wrexham University, to really maximise the opportunities that are there, that are offered through the ILEX programme. It is clearly also a way in which we can differentiate ourselves as the Welsh university sector, 8 universities out of 120 or so UK universities, and it's really down to us to make a success of this. This is an opportunity which is open to all our students studying with us in Wales, whether they are originally students from Wales or from other parts of the UK. So this really opens up opportunities to students that come to study with us at Welsh universities. And quite a number of our students are from other parts of the UK. So this is a great opportunity that we can offer to everybody coming to us, and indeed to our staff. So I look forward to making the most of it, and I'm sure that this will be a scheme which will be emulated, and I would be hopeful and optimistic that other parts of the UK will follow suit, because surely this is too good an opportunity to be missed. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. And I now we'll have all panelists back, I think, for the next part. Really interesting set of contributions there. And there's some, I think, quite fundamental questions which it will be helpful to discuss. And I should stress that we are in the very early stages of development of this programme, and so there's really is an opportunity to influence it. We're in the process of, in due course, over the next couple of months, we'll be appointing a board of advisors, which will represent the whole sector, from schools, further education, universities, youth, and so on and so forth. So it is for the whole of the education sector, and I should stress that. And Maria also made an important point that this scheme will be open to any student enrolled at a Welsh institution, irrespective of where they come from, whether international, rest of the UK, or from Wales. So it's very embracing in that sense. I think one important question would be, what do we need to do to make sure that the programme is accessible and inclusive? And Aoife, you did mention that yourself. Have you got a view on what we would need to do?
2 points maybe. So we learned from our own students, or from observing what students did in the past, that it's much desirable to stay for a long time abroad, to really emerge, to really grasp the culture, so on and so forth. But it's a big step for those who only just arrived to a university, who just settle in an academic environment. So there are 2 elements here. So first of all, it would be great if you had opportunities for those students to give it a try. Stay for a month with, let's say, summer programs, something like that. Stay for a month, get this experience, get a bit of credit maybe in one or another way also. So not just have it be an addition, but have it be part of the curriculum, or have it be it should be possible to include it in a curriculum. But have it as a teaser, have it as an incentive. That's one issue. The other issue, but I'm sure, I mean, this has been on in the past already, and I mean, I'm happy to say, I mean, British universities, Welsh universities are much better at this than many German universities are. It's welcoming students from abroad. And that's, of course, what especially those first generation students need a lot, to be introduced to the academic environment, to be introduced to a culture of studying. So this is something that would be very, very valuable.
That's great. Thanks, Sifa. We've had actually some questions from the delegates on this, and one of them we've just answered really. But then there's another one: will there be a focus on encouraging LGBTQ plus students to study or work abroad in the Welsh ILEP? And there certainly will. So as part of a broader effort to make sure that everybody who wants to do this will be able to do this, and we would want to support people, I think, very broadly on that. Does anybody else want to say something about the accessibility and inclusivity issue from the panelists? Yeah, Maria?
Yeah, I'd just like to echo what you've said, Colin. I think we've worked really hard over the past, in the recent past, the recent 2 or 3 years, to make our universities more inclusive environments in every way, whether that is around the curriculum content, whether it's around the physical environment of our universities, encouraging student clubs and societies, and of course the student unions can look after themselves and are very, very good at it. So absolutely, that'll be part of what we will be offering. We will be reaching out to all the various students with specific characteristics that might need a little bit more encouragement, incentivization to make, as I said earlier, to make the most of these opportunities. So yes, the inclusive approach will absolutely be there, both in an outgoing and an incoming sense.
Absolutely, I agree. I think what we have to think about are what are the needs that we would need to support, and take account of those, and not think there's one stereotypical type of student who's going to be involved in this. You know, people will have different needs. There may be caring needs, there may be disability, you know, or self-confidence. There's all sorts of things, and if actually touched on that. So welcoming, removing barriers, making it easy, I think, are all going to be very important. So yeah, thanks for those questions. Just looking in the chat again. There's one that I was going to raise that I think it was Claire mentioned, so perhaps I'd ask Claire to start on this one. You said the priority for the next phase of Erasmus, one of them is to make the programme greener, and I think that's absolutely something we need to take real account of with this programme, and for that matter, I think with Turing and the others as well. How do we square ambitions around carbon net zero and emissions with an international student exchange program? So Claire, it'd be interesting to hear from you initially, perhaps, what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, so our aim, yes, we you know, the broader EU priorities are had to have policy requirements. Yeah, we were already promoting more alternative transports, for example. So expand the time of support of 2 or 4 extra days to allow staff to push for that, far from but that's idea. And the second idea for the thematic cooperation projects, also to very clearly set priorities for cooperation in the cooperation, education of all
Claire, you're breaking up a lot.
So that's
Claire, sorry, we're not getting very much of you. You're breaking up.
And what the schools exchanges. So that's and
Yeah, sorry, Claire's breaking up a lot there. So I think we'll have to come back to Claire and maybe hope that we get a better reception. But I did pick up a couple of things from that. I mean, the alternative forms of transport, presumably rail rather than flying, and then paying for people to have a couple of days to recover if it's a long journey, I think is what you were saying perhaps. And we'll see if we can come back to you when it's breaking up less. Kostis, do you have a view on that? Does the Erasmus Student Network, is that something you've discussed at all?
Yes, absolutely. Making the program greener and more sustainable is indeed one of our priorities as well. I have, though, to specify one thing, because sometimes we are getting into the trap of people accusing the Erasmus Plus program or people accusing mobility because it creates flights and so on. But I think that we have to put all these things into perspective, right? So I believe that we should not stigmatize, for example, people that they're choosing to go on Erasmus or mobility and then necessarily they have to fly, because you have to measure the pros and cons. And I'm sure that there are so many other things in society that we have to change in terms of sustainability rather than limiting the opportunities of young people going abroad. Now, what we do in ESN is that we are trying to raise awareness among the students. And at the moment, we have a very big campaign taking place. So we're trying to make the students to understand that if it's possible to take the more sustainable means of transportation, then they should opt in with this option, because they will have a far better experience until they reach to the country. They can travel to within the country where they study instead of taking the plane and going to another country. So we are trying to raise this kind of awareness among the students, and we are endorsing, of course, the option that the European Commission found out of incentivizing the students, of giving them top-up grants in case they choose to take the bus or the train. So yeah, in ESN, we're trying to raise this awareness, but at the same time, we are remaining vigilant, because we have those voices saying, instead of going on mobility, maybe you can do your education online. While in our case, this is not the same. We should not limit mobility and bring the virtual option just because of the excuse of the green traveling.
That's really helpful, thanks. I think it shouldn't preclude the option of, this is my view on this, it shouldn't preclude the option of internationalization at home, where students don't travel but have a virtual exchange. But we have actually this year really seen the limitations of that for students who do want that immersive experience and that direct conversation. So there's a couple of more questions in the chat which are a bit more specific, so I'll try and answer those briefly before we finish. But what I'd like to know, perhaps, so we've only got a couple of minutes, we really do have to finish at 1:15, and I'll try and answer the questions in the chat. But any thoughts on what we need to do with this programme to make it attractive to students, so that students will want to come to Wales, because or for that matter, students within Wales to travel? Any thoughts on what the key things would be on that? Okay, Maria?
Okay, just kicking off briefly, I think it's down to the basics. Any Erasmus program is successful as long as a number of conditions are met. There has to be a reasonable match between the field of studies that the student is embarking on and continuing on. There needs to be good understanding that there is a match, and that students don't arrive and find themselves totally at sea, or they find that entirely duplicating what they've already covered. And the second thing is there needs to be an element of the place where the student is traveling to, that is a place where they will thrive. So if it's, for instance, a university in the middle of a really busy city, that is something that will appeal to that student. Or conversely, if a smaller town such as Wrexham, where I'm based, is a better fit for that student, then so it's things like that. It's finding the right match. that's to me, that's what it's all about.
That's great. I think that's absolutely right. So getting the fit right and ensuring that people are properly supported. We've done a lot of work on this over the years in the UK, and we've had annual surveys of students who've gone abroad and so on and so forth. And top of the list generally comes finance. So one thing we're going to have to do is make sure that the financial structure of this is supportive to the student, and as far as possible. And of course, there are always limits with that, but we know that that's very important, as well as the sort of welfare support and that kind of thing. So Claire has very helpfully put in the chat a point about environment and the themes of climate and environment through other cooperation projects supported by the programme at all levels of education, which is great. And I would at some point, Claire, like to come back to you and actually ask you a bit more about what the Commission's thinking of, because I think this is such an important topic, and it was a pity that you broke up quite a lot during that, so we couldn't quite pick it up. But we will try and catch up with that. Just a couple of last questions from the chat there. How will the ILE programme interface with the reserved issues such as visas and immigration policy? Well, I think we will just deal with the Home Office over that. But thus far, we've found the Home Office have been very cooperative on international students and on mobility. So I would hope that that will be we'll get a positive outcome there. And we are trying to get a special visa for this, or at least a particular attention paid to this type of mobility. How could the wider education sector, including English language teaching sector, be involved with the programme development? Well, we will have an advisory board with representatives from right across the sector, so that will be one way, and the members of that will be public, and so it will be possible to contact via those means. But I'll actually take that point on board as to how people can feed into the programme development. And I can imagine English language teaching is really important on that. And then there's quite a specific one on, will Welsh universities need to apply for funding with specific universities, or could they be granted a budget which could be used more freely? I think that's really just too early to say, I'm afraid, and we will be taking advice from the advisory board and clearly within the guidance of Welsh Government, who are our funders for this. So we'll look, I think we would like to make it flexible if we could. So I think it is now time to end this session. There's now going to be a 15-minute break until 11:30. So please rejoin at 11:30. And there's going to be breakout sessions then. Breakout session A on collaborating on a system-to-system partnership with Wales and Vietnam, and B on sustainable networks in the USA, and C on Team Wales nation branding through higher education. So that's it from us. A massive thank you to all our panelists today. I certainly found those interventions helpful and informative. So thank you to Aoife, Costas, Claire and Maria. And that's it from me and them. Thank you.